Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
I must confess, I don't have a lot prepared today. Mostly, I just wanted to spend time with you. Which sounds really cornball when I say it that way, but it's how I feel. I was here, I was editing, I was working, I was getting everything updated and taking care of the website and looking at the tour schedule, and I thought, I miss you. So, without a whole lot to talk about, hoping that you will fill in the blanks, I thought maybe we could share time and fellowship together. This is the religious part of me coming out, because we would call it fellowship, which usually involved food. I wish we had something here. Speaking of food, I have a confession. And this is how lazy or pathetic I have become. I was just tired, right? Tired. Natalie's got us doing yoga, which is really hard. 96 degrees. My legs are tired. My back is tired. I was just walking around the house like a newborn giraffe, trying to get up the stairs after an hour of intense resistance training, really is what it is. And we've been playing tennis quite a bit, and I'm not getting any younger. And I just had one of those days where I didn't want to leave the house. Have you ever had those days? I don't feel like leaving today. I just want to stay home, be a homebody. But I was craving. I was craving a chocolate milkshake. There's the car. I could probably get down to the ice cream spot in 10 minutes. $5 in a drive-through window and I'm set. But damn it, I didn't want to leave. I'm a homebody. I want to stay home. I'm sore and I'm tired and I'm whiny and I'm cranky and blah, blah, blah. So I pulled out my phone and opened the DoorDash app. There's the restaurant that serves the milkshake. Oh, goody. I scroll down, chocolate milkshake with whipped cream, no cherry. Add to cart. And then I look down and I see $5.95. And there is a $3 order fee or something. And then there is a $2 delivery fee. And would you like to tip your dasher? Now, for a few who may not know what DoorDash is, I'm guessing most people do, but I know we do have an international audience. For just a second, give me just a second to explain. Imagine the replicator in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Jean-Luc Picard goes up and he says, "Tea, Earl Grey, hot." And he says it into the little machine. The door opens up. It's magic. There's the tea, Earl Grey, hot. Right? It appears right there in front of him. That's what DoorDash is. You just go and you find the food that you want and you click little buttons and you wait usually 30, 45 minutes and miraculously some angel, some good Samaritan brings the food and lays it at your feet or at least on your front porch and you open the door and there's the food from the restaurant that you didn't have to go to the restaurant for. You take it in and eat it without any inconvenience. It's beautiful and it's expensive. $5.95 for the milkshake, $2 convenience fee, $3 delivery fee. Would you like to tip your dasher? Okay, fine. $14 $14 or $15 for a milkshake. And I just stared at my phone. I'm just staring in. My social conscience is kicking in. What the hell is wrong with you? Get in the car and drive down, get a milk. Pay 1/3 of what it costs and get yourself some ice cream. And I have done neither. The app is right here. I have yet to click final or buy or whatever the button is. And I've yet to leave to go down and get it for myself. You caught me at a weird moment. You ever crave something? I went through a thing a few weeks ago, pancakes. Every day, morning, midday, evening. I told Natalie, I'm craving pancakes. She's like, really? Of course, it's got to be one of the worst things for you because if you do the real syrup, I think real sugary syrup that's not the half-cal or low-cal or diet or sugar-free or whatever, I think you're looking at 120 calories for 2 tablespoons of syrup. And if you have seen my pancake plate, it's swimming in syrup. The syrup is just dancing all around the pancakes. I can't have 2 tablespoons, so now I'm doing the math. Okay, at least a half a cup of syrup. How many tablespoons is that? Plus the calorie count of the pancakes. Is this a 1,200 calorie pancake? Okay, what else was I talking about? I've got a monitor here in my office with cameras that are mounted on the front side of my house, and I find myself looking up a lot more here, and in fact, I'm doing it as I'm recording. We've had a series of break-ins in the neighborhood, most of them at night. Most of them have been with vehicles that have been parked out in driveways or on the street. I was walking Linus around the block, and there's a white pickup truck, driver's side window totally smashed out. Who knows what was stolen out of the car. Some people have lost tools. Someone left their cell phone in a car. They lost the phone. There was a construction company that was building a house not far from here. Somebody showed up in the middle of the night with a flatbed trailer, and they put about $10,000 worth of lumber and building materials that had been laying there. They were about to frame the house. They showed up the next day. Those materials had all been stolen. They just installed a street camera near the front of the addition. But I find myself thinking, okay, cars in the garage. Even if I have to take all the crap in the garage and mash it up against the walls, I don't want my cars out there. And now I'm all paranoid. And then you get mad because you think, go get your own. Go build your own. Go earn your own. Why are you taking from other people? Why are you stealing? Why are you breaking the law? Why are you complicating the lives? You know, I always tell Natalie, when we talk about those who do horrible things in this world, how hard is it really to do the right thing? Like, if everybody would just do right by each other, imagine the world we would live in. And I know that sounds like kumbaya, but why is it kumbaya? Why have we become so cynical that we think, well, whatever? Why can't people do right by each other? Why can't people be kind to each other? Why does there have to be so much cruelty and parasitic behavior and sadism and predation, corruption? Why? Why would you smash your way into someone else's life to take something that is not yours and cause fear and anger and strife and stress and cheat someone else out of something that is theirs? What does that produce for you? What if you were to take all of the energy, the time, the will, the commitment that you spent taking from other people, and you were to build something? If you were to develop yourself, your character, your skill set? It's been a hell of a lot harder, apparently, to build than it is to steal around here. So I'm watching closely, hoping I don't come home to a broken window or something someday. What else is going on? Oh, I'm going to wait right here. I'm going to actually hold on as you do me a solid and you open up your podcast app and you subscribe to my second show, True Stories with Seth Andrews. The website is truestoriespodcast.com. The show comes out 3 times a week, roughly 5 to 7 minutes. It can be true crime, celebrity trivia, weird news, stupid criminals. You just never know what you're going to get. But I take a lot of time and care to make sure I vet the stories. But I really would like to see more people notice it, enjoy it, spread the word about it. So right now, and I'm just going to hang here, while you pull up your podcast app and subscribe to True Stories with Seth Andrews. Just do it. I'm just going to sit here and scroll my phone for just a second here. All right. I'm going to check the weather because we've got storms on the horizon. So are you logging on? Are you subscribing? I hope you are. Yeah, chance of showers 71, maybe some severe weather in a couple of days. Windy, so tennis is probably out, but I can do yoga. That's been good exercise, doing that a couple of times. Okay, have you done it? It's free, and I appreciate the support. Podcasting has been a weird thing. We've seen adjustments going on in the industry, and certain platforms like Apple are paying less, or they've changed the model for what they record as listens, which has made it harder for those of us who do this full time. What else? Was there anything else on I see the switchboard is populating. Oh, I have been invited to be the occasional host on The Line, which is a YouTube show. Jimmy Snow and Matt Dillahunty and Forrest Valkai and Shannon Q and a bunch of others, they all jump in and they host, and there's sort of a mix of hosts throughout the month. And so apparently I'm a regular. I'm going to be coming in while still focusing on my work here, and I'm going to be on shows wherever I'm invited. There are no restrictions, but they said, look, would you like to come and host for us a couple of times a month or whenever needed? And I said, if schedule allows, I would be honored. So we'll take calls. I guess we'll take a lot of theist calls. They have some odd ones on the line. I tend to handle calls a little bit differently. And I told Jimmy this. I want to make sure I'm doing what they need done the way they want it done. But we'll see. We'll see if my tempo, my pacing serves the show, if the way I host and occasionally go off on a tangent and monologue will be welcome, or it'll drive everybody crazy and there will be complaint letters and then they will wish me a good day. Thanks for stopping by, Seth. Appreciate you. This was very temporary. Very temporary. We'll call you, pal. We'll call you. I don't know. That starts in the month of May. But of course, our work here will continue uninterrupted, and you have my word on that. Let's talk to you, Linda from Buffalo, New York. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind is if we were to take out the whole religious aspect of what's going on in the world today, what would things look like? I mean, what would the Israelis and the Palestinians be fighting over?
I just had this conversation recently. If Hamas wasn't saying that they had a divine right, if they were not on a kind of holy war jihad against the infidel, etc., if they didn't have a religiously excused or rationalized hatred of the Jews, if people weren't saying that Israel can do whatever it wants because it is Zion, and Israel is God's sovereign with God's chosen people, and the establishment of the Jewish state is a precursor to the apocalypse or the end times or Christ returning, which is supposed to be an amazing. The people weren't using religious excuses to do what they do. Imagine what a world you and I would live in. I've had that very thought. Do you feel like If religion was removed from the equation, from your opinion, do you feel like the conflict would go away, or do you think tribalism remains a problem? We are tribalistic. We do get weird about our in-groups and out-groups and vilifying the others.
Yeah, we do, and we'll find any excuse to dominate. Personally, I think we're a parasite on this planet. I don't think we belong here.
We don't belong on planet Earth?
Well, the human species is not exactly helping much to preserve the planet, you know. And when we say we're going to save Mother Earth, no, we're going to save our own asses. That's what we're out to do.
I do get cynical about our mismanagement of resources, what we are guilty of doing and not doing. It is frustrating, but I don't go that far. This is our home, right?
Okay.
Carl Sagan said the only home we've ever known. So I just think we need to be better stewards of that home. That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fair. And I want to thank you for last year when you gave me a very nice birthday greeting when I turned 76. I'm now 77.
You are most welcome. And it was always nice to be asked to participate in somebody's special occasion. So you be safe up there in New York, okay?
Okay, and you take care of yourself and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
You got it. All right. Take care. I guess that means no door dashing milkshakes because it's irresponsible to do so. Stand by. I got a guy who says he's got proof we're a Christian nation, plus whatever else you want to talk about. We continue next. On my speaking roster, May 19th, I will be at CFI West, Los Angeles. Would love to see you there. The Secular Student Alliance has invited me to go out and present. That's Little Rock, Arkansas, mid-June, then Denver, St. Louis, Fort Worth, Houston, Sarnia, Ontario, Toronto, Lexington, Bentonville, and it looks like Knoxville, Tennessee wants to have me out later this year. SethAndrews.com/events has the schedule, links, and all you need to know. James at 610, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. James, what is on your mind, my friend?
Yeah, so I guess my atheist journey starts a long time ago, actually probably in college and everything, and you're one of the first people that I looked up after, because I was still going to Bible study and everything during college and stuff like that, coming right out, because I was in those youth groups. I was part of some Christian summer camp thing where I was a camp counselor, been going there for years, and then I just became disillusioned with everything. What's interesting is that I like that you had Mandisa Thomas on and everything like that, right? And I don't know if I found out about Mandisa Thomas through you or just doing some searching. But when I started my atheist journey, and I'm African American, what's interesting is that I didn't find a lot of people that look like me that were doing it. And I ended up in this kind of weird community called the consciousness community. Now, me personally, I find this as this is my entertainment now. And they push a lot of kind of weird things because they say that they are atheists, but they believe in a lot of weird conspiracy theories or some other stuff like that. Spiritualism. That's where I found out about people because I know you had a conversation with someone who used to be part of the Nuwapians. And I learned about those people through that community.
James, tell me what the name of the organization is again. I'm going to look it up real quick. What's it called?
Oh, it's not an organization. The term is called conscious community. It's a whole bunch of different people.
Okay.
So it doesn't even just include atheists. This is just
So it's an idea. It's a type of community.
Yeah, it's mainly online though. This is not anything that's really I don't want to use this term, but if you ever heard the term Hotep, which is kind of derogatory, but if you ever heard the term Hotep, that's kind of what they kind of fall under in a sense. But I guess I was attracted to this community before I met people Mandisa Thomas and everything like that. But I wanted to see your opinion on how the atheist community in general, because a lot of the arguments is that what they will say is that atheist is mainly a white thing and atheism is a white idea and is a white religion. And that this is something that's not of African people or people of African descent. And it's unnatural for you to be an atheist if you're black. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I actually had a conversation. I've had many conversations with people in the like black non-believers community. Mandisa and I spoke about it. It is very true that the atheist activist movement, I hate the word movement, but you get me, has looked a lot like me, white cis male, hetero male. But we are seeing slowly a greater diversification. We're seeing more color and culture as part of these conversations. With black atheists, according to people like Mandisa, as I understand it, when it comes to black non-believers, it's a double whammy because the church is so integrated into the civil rights movements, Martin Luther King Jr. being a reverend. We saw churches which were hubs for civil rights and racial equality discussions throughout the mid-20th century, and the church played a big role. And so we're seeing this embedding in African-American cultures and communities where the church has become part of the cultural identity. So now, if you become an atheist as an African-American, they say not only have you betrayed God, but you betrayed your race. And that's a reality that makes the journey out of religions, out of the church, more difficult for people of color. And it's a very real thing. But we are seeing more and more of them. I think it's going to be a slow climb. I think it's going to take a long, long time to see a true representation of non-believers who are not white males like me, but it's slowly beginning to change. Have you seen a shift at all in your own life? Are you meeting anybody who says, I don't buy it?
Yes. There's a couple of people that are atheistic that are black and everything like that, even online, even within that community. So the first person I found was somebody named Ankh West, or Ankh the God Killer. And he used to be, I don't want to say he was ever a part of the Nuwapian, but he believed in some of the beliefs a long time ago. Then he rejected them. And he's like pure science. And they kind of go against him because like he's strictly on scientific literacy and everything like that. And he calls himself an atheist. He does not believe in God or anything like that. So people like him that actually push scientific literacy, I feel like that is a step forward, at least within the black community, so we can get away from religiosity in our community.
Yeah, it is interesting. We talk all the time about Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, but few people talk about A. Philip Randolph and so many of the other secular activists during the Civil War and in through the 20th century, the civil rights movement. I think educating people about those secular activists is certainly something we could all do a better job of. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for calling. I myself, I want to see a movement that doesn't look as much like me, and it looks a lot more like all of us. Thanks for calling. I appreciate you being a part of the conversation, okay?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. 613, is it John?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Okay, I was hearing you speak to the previous caller, and I got the impression that you believe that blacks are being oppressed by the Catholic Church. And I want to call to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth.
Okay, I didn't say anything. Whoa. I didn't say anything about the Catholic Church. In fact, I was speaking about how churches were hubs during the civil rights movement, and that has caused religious institutions to become more and more embedded in African American culture. But there was no mention made of the Catholic Church in relation to black people. So where'd you get that?
Oh, I apologize if I misrepresented your position. However, I will like to say that black people believing in the faith is the best thing that ever happened to us. Because under the faith, we had businesses, we had schools, we had families, we were prospering. It was only until we became atheists that things fell apart for us.
When you speak about liberation, you speak about equality, family, community, charity, prosperity, not just in black communities, but across the human spectrum. What about that is religious? Couldn't you do all of that without the church?
But it was done with the church. That's the point.
That's not my question. Couldn't you do it without the church? It's all human action, reaction, right? I mean, this is something that requires no God belief, does it?
Well, you can do it without the church, but it's better with it, because we humans, we need to believe in something higher than ourselves.
Wait a minute. Where do you get that claim? Can you demonstrate that there is something higher, some greater intelligence, a prime mover, a heavenly father? Can you prove that to me?
Yes, I can give you the best example right now. You're living it. It's called the United States of America. The founding fathers were all Christians, and they believed in the faith. And they used the Ten Commandments to start the Western civilization. They brought civilization to the natives, and they ended human sacrifice, child sacrifice, ended slavery, and gave you the very freedom which you have now to speak on this very show to me to denounce it.
Can I ask you where you got the information about the founding fathers and the Ten Commandments and the liberation of the slaves? Can you tell me what the educational model was? Where did you learn this?
I went to school, Mr.
Thank you. What school did you go to? What type of school?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question, but I do know that I got it from there.
You don't have to answer the question of how you learned it, but you want to make the claim that it's true. So if I was to come to you and I was to say that I was a devout Muslim and it was Allah that the founders believed in, and it was Quranic truth that liberated the people, established the United States, and set the captives free. I learned it in school, but I won't tell you what school that is. You would accept that at face value?
I trust you're an educated man, Mr. Andrews. It wasn't the Muslims who started the United States, it was the Christians. How do you explain that the Christianity is the most popular religion on earth? How do you explain that?
How do I explain the popularity? Well, actually, there are a great many explanations for the ubiquity of beliefs. It doesn't mean that those beliefs are true. The argument from popularity is popular, but mass delusion is still delusion. We still have to go back to the original question. Is it true? And then the next question is, how do you know that? And I could educate you about the founders. I could talk about Benjamin Franklin, who often ridiculed the Puritans, Thomas Paine writing The Age of Reason, Thomas Jefferson slicing the supernatural verses out of the New Testament with the Jefferson Bible currently on display at the Smithsonian, George Washington not taking his presidential oath on the Bible, and so on. We could talk about the Treaty of Tripoli, which was signed by John Adams, bearing the words, "The United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." We could get into the Danbury Baptists and the Congregationalists, as Jefferson referenced the wall of separation between church and state. I could read the Constitution, the governing document of the United States, for you. Would it make any difference? I'm not convinced that it would, because I sense you have made an emotional connection. You feel deeply we are a Christian nation and all good things came from your religion, but that doesn't really make it true, does it?
Mr. Andrews, if you could show me all that, I will look at it, I will pay attention, and if proven correct, I would change my mind.
That's fair. I would very much encourage you. Just check it out. You can Google search, verify. Don't take my word for it. You want to check out the Treaty of Tripoli, check out the Jefferson Bible. You'll want to hopefully purchase and read Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason. Check out the Establishment Clause in the United States Constitution. And also, while you are there, search for the word God anywhere in the Constitution. God, Jesus, Yahweh, whatever. Just search it.
Are you telling me that's not there, Mr. Andrews?
I am telling you the word God appears nowhere in the United States Constitution.
Okay. So am I wrong to believe that the founding fathers were Christian? Am I wrong about that?
Some were deists like Jefferson, but honestly, That's probably the wrong question to be asking, because when they established the United States, despite whatever personal religious belief they may or may not have had, their desire was to set up a secular government which protected the private expression of religious belief, but we were not a theocracy. We were not a church state. This would be a pluralistic society where all are equal. People who are Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, people of all faiths, and none. That was the intent. So whether or not George Washington believed in Jesus or quoted Jesus at some time in his life, he and the other founders set the Constitution in place so that we were not a religious nation.
So it was meant to be secular.
Yes. The American experiment was something unique in our history. A country set up to represent everyone equally. Granted, that's not how it has played out, but that was the desire of the founders.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but was there a time when in courts it used to say, "In God we trust"? Or actually, I'd like to know, if that's the case, how come on United States money it says, "In God we trust"? Can you explain that for me?
I can. I sense you may already know the answers to these. Have you done your homework on this and you just, you're trying to stir the pot on the show? I want to give you the benefit of the doubt.
I have some education, but I'm not American.
Okay. God was not originally on our currency. The original motto for the United States was E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Again, referencing a pluralistic, equal, diverse democracy. In God We Trust was added to the money in coins right after the Civil War and on paper money during the communist scare and the satanic panic of the 1950s. It was Congress who added it nearly 200 years after the Declaration of Independence was signed. Under God didn't originally appear in the Pledge of Allegiance, written by Francis Bellamy, who, by the way, was a socialist. That was added in the mid-20th century as well. God was not woven into the fabric of the United States originally. It was added in later by Christian activists. And why would we want this to be a Christian nation anyway? Why would God need a state church? I thought it was all about a personal relationship. An omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent Jesus, God, whoever, would not need to institutionalize religion because it's all about the heart, isn't it?
It is. But I want to ask you a question. Correct me if I heard you right, but are you saying the person who said on the money or on the Pledge of Allegiance, pledge allegiance to the name of God, that person was a socialist? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Francis Bellamy was a democratic socialist. He actually wrote the pledge not for the United States government. It was published in a local paper for, I think, a youth organization. And it was picked up. It just sort of caught fire. Francis Bellamy never intended for us to have a national pledge. He may have been delighted at the idea that his work went national, but it was not contracted by the Congress. It was not asked for by the people. It was created as kind of a one-off and through a series of circumstances sort of became the pledge. But Bellamy himself, he was a democratic socialist. He didn't think Jesus would support a class system because we would all be of the same class. And that surprises a lot of people who are defenders of under God in the pledge.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see. So, ask another question. Was the United States based on capitalism?
Well, that I can't say. I'm not an economist. I don't think Jesus would be a laissez-faire capitalist. Jesus wouldn't worship billionaires, the hoarders of wealth, with so much suffering in this world. I think Jesus would reward hard work, would appreciate and laud success, even prosperity. But do I think unfettered, unchecked?
But according to you, Jesus never existed.
I'm talking about Jesus in the theoretical sense as based in the Bible. Whether or not there was an actual Jesus is a totally different question. I mean, does Jesus in the Bible, in the New Testament, talk about capitalism? As I recall, he went in to tear things up with the money changers because they had all become greedy because they were hoarders of wealth when there was so much suffering. But whether or not there was an actual Jesus...
Give on to Caesar what is Caesar, give on to God what is God's.
What's your point?
I'm just saying that was one of his quotes.
Well, who determines what belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God and which God? And then can you prove that God existed? You and I could probably chit-chat for a long, long time. Ultimately, let me say this, because I wanted to spend plenty of time with you, but I also want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence with the rest of the switchboard. Take this with you. The founding fathers were not all Christians. The Constitution has no mention of God. The inclusion of God language on our money and in our pledge came long decades, even hundreds of years after the founding of this country. And honestly, why would God need a state church if it's all about a relationship with individuals in their hearts? Just take that with you, chew on it. And if you get a chance, pick up Andrew Seidel's book called The Founding Myth, because it dismantles this claim that we are a Christian nation. Okay?
Can I ask you one more question, sir? Just one more question.
Quickly.
Let's say you have your way and Christianity goes away. What would you do then? What would your job be?
What would my job be?
Yeah, because let's assume that all of a sudden you succeed and Christianity disappears and everyone becomes atheist. What would you do?
Actually, if Christianity disappears, we still have thousands of other religions, including the second most powerful religion on the planet, which is Islam, a religion I consider to be the most dangerous right now. If religion overall was to go away, I would still be a humanist activist. I would still be trying to promote humanist values, trying to create opportunities where we root ourselves in the real world. We'd have community both here and in the local, regional, and national level. I would still be speaking to my values as a crusader because that's kind of my temperament. We all want to make a difference out there using our gifts. This is kind of what I know how to do. I would hope you would feel the same, okay?
Okay, well, thanks for talking to me.
All right, see you. It's hard because I have these conversations a lot, and I do make the mistake of thinking that other people already know these things. We've talked about the Christian nation claim so often, especially with Christian nationalism. I've got whole videos and podcasts out there dismantling the Christian nation claim. There's also another angle to this. People, especially in the Christian faith in this country, deify the founders. They assume they were all Sunday go-to-meeting, Jesus-loving, Bible literalist Christians. And they treat them like gods. The founders wanted this. The founders wrote that. The founders said. We see the Second Amendment warriors doing this. You can't change the Second Amendment because the founders. There's an authoritarianism going on. There's a kind of sacrosanct portrait of perfection that some people have about these men. And I'm like, well, they were men. Often problematic men. Yes, the American experiment was, and in many ways remains, a remarkable and wonderful thing. But these were the same people who didn't allow women to serve in government, who kept women subservient. Many owned slaves. George Washington had dentures with slaves' teeth in them. These people were ignorant about so much. They didn't even know what germs were back then. If you were to go back and show them Wi-Fi, they would have thought it was witchcraft. This idea that because they said it hundreds of years ago, that it's literally gospel is crazy. Stand by, more of your calls on whatever's on your mind next. Thanks for your support on Patreon. You get the show early and commercial-free. Patreon.com/Seth Andrews. I've got Richie at 619. Are you there?
Hey, Seth, can you hear me?
I can. What's on your mind?
Well, first I want to say I understand you're coming to LA on May, and I'll actually be there to see your lecture, so I'm really excited about that.
Looking forward to shaking your hand. It's going to be fun.
Well, I'll make this quick. So, of course, I'm a non-believer, and I just wanted your opinion. I kind of fed up having to argue about my non-belief in my atheism. I have a lot of people who are non-believers in my family, friends who insist that I explain to them why, I'm a non-believer and give them a good reason for it. And I'm kind of just at this point where I'm like, if that's what you want to believe, that's totally cool. I'm not convinced. I don't think I ever will be. And that's completely fine. And I guess my question is, do you think that's a cop-out? What do you think about that? I'd be really interested to hear your answer. And thank you for your time.
Oh, would you like me to answer off the air then? Is that it? Or off the call?
Off the call. That way I don't keep your time too long.
Oh, no. My time belongs to you, man.
Thank you for your time, Seth.
All right. Thanks for calling. We'll see you later. If I walk into a room, and let's say it's a Christian, okay? And they fold their arms and set their jaw and stomp their feet. And they say, I demand to know. I demand to know. I expect you to tell me why you reject God, why you reject the Bible, why you don't believe in my Jesus. I demand to know right now. If that's the attitude, my first thought is, good luck with that. I don't really care what you expect or demand. You don't get to expect or demand anything of me. Did I walk in here and demand that you explain or prove your religion, or did I just walk in the room? Am I the one trespassing? Looks like you're the one trespassing. This is totally different than a good faith interlocutor who says, I don't understand. I'm curious. Can you help me? Can you explain why you don't believe? You can hear that intent in their voice. You can see it on their face. You know this is a good faith agent. That's different. I'm all over those conversations. Let's talk, right? But those people who walk in with that huff of expectation, looking down the nose of superiority to say, well, explain yourself, man. I'm like, well, you can expect an explanation, but I don't owe you the time of day. Life is short. The truth is, we often have a desire. We get caught in the trap here. Forgive me, I'm going to just go off for a second. But I walk into a room and someone says, well, why don't you believe the Bible is true? My first inclination, because I'm relatively tooled up, is to go bullet point by bullet point, to lay it out. I'm going to plead my case. Fine, you put me on the stand or wanted to put me on the stand. Okay. Well, no one knows who wrote the book of Genesis. Cosmology has disproved that we live on a young earth. Genesis 1 and 2 disagree with each other on the order of creation. Plus, you've got donkeys that speak Hebrew and snakes whispering in the ears of a rib woman who was the wife of a dirt man who wandered an enchanted garden. Then you've got no proof of the Exodus, that ever happened. The Israelites coming out of Egypt. Noah's flood has been totally debunked by geologic science. People never lived to be 1,000 years old. Then we've got flying chariots of fire, slavery, unfulfilled prophecy, Bible heroes who flew up into the sky on flying chariots, a man who survived underwater for 3 days as he was trapped in a giant prison fish, supermen who gain power based on the length of their hair, right? We're not even out of the first part of the Old Testament, but you and I are laying it out. Contradiction, wild mythology, slavery, misogyny, genocide, infanticide, human sacrifice, spinning into the New Testament, no proof of Jesus. I mean, we are going full tilt, right? We are in our element, hoping that they will see that it's contradictory, it's unsupported, it's ridiculous and often offensive. But what happens? Do they look at us and say, wow, good point. That's interesting. I'm going to go and dig further to make sure I'm believing true things. I am going to do some homework and read beyond the Bible. And the theologians, thank you so much for opening this door of potential for me. And then they walk off into Reasonville. Does that ever happen? No, not with those people. Not with the agents of expectation. Because the goal was never to find out what's true or to understand you and me in good faith. The goal was to try to fix us. We're broken. We have to be repaired. We're doomed. We have to be rescued. We're lost. We have to be found. We're damned. We must be saved. They are not listening. They are a radio tower that is sending but not receiving any signal. Add to that the arrogance of demanding that I justify myself? No. I just smile and say, you expect? That's nice. Have a good day. And I go get on with the rest of my life. So that's the difference. Good faith interlocutor who wants to know. Superior apologist who wants to condescend and overstep. Those are two different scenarios. I've got David. David, are you with me, my friend?
I am. Thank you so much for taking my call, Seth.
Very kind. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm gay, I'm an atheist, and I'm also a nurse. For some strange reason, nursing is a profession where there are a lot of religious people. I've never been able to figure this out because we all go to school and study science to get this job. But nonetheless, there is a high degree of religiosity in this profession. In order to keep my job, oftentimes I have to remain closeted, both about being an atheist and about being gay. This makes the workplace very difficult to navigate.
Hard to be in a science-based profession with superstition all around you.
Yeah, it's really weird because, we don't think that, somebody got sick because they walked under a ladder or crossed the paths with a black cat. But people really are into the whole God trip, and I don't know why.
We've actually had some conversations about why smart people believe dumb things. There's a book by that title. What's the line? Smart people are the best at rationalizing opinions or beliefs that they came to for non-smart reasons. Sometimes smart people are able to outsmart themselves. I also think that many of these people are influenced by family and culture. They came out of a religious home. They have a religious community. And so the cultural aspect of it, it's their normal. And the brain's modular. We can compartmentalize irrational from rational. But it's weird, isn't it, whenever somebody's in there and they're getting science-based medical treatment, and then another person walks in with their hands clasped and begins to pray for healing. And I'm thinking, if prayer worked, there would be no hospital. Have you had that thought, David?
Yeah. Oh, many times. It's not just that. It's like the whole New Age thing is also a big thing up where I live, too. So people are into like Reiki and stuff like that, And it's all clearly bunk. Just waving your hands over somebody isn't going to cure cancer, no matter what you think it's going to do. But for whatever reason, that's sort of the default, that people go to. Sometimes I wonder if it isn't out of desperation because there are limits as to what medicine can do. And if somebody has just been told some rather horrific news, like you have this horrible condition and you're going to die from it and no one can help you, perhaps they're reaching out in desperation. But what I don't get is the practitioners, people like myself, doctors, other medical staff who play into this.
I think you are spot on when it comes to people reaching out in moments of desperation. And I think this is why some of the prayer conversation deserves our compassion. You get the worst of news. You don't know what the future holds. Am I going to lose the person I care about? I'm scared. I feel helpless. This is often when people pray. There is a placebo effect, a calming effect that comes with praying and prayer rituals. You've got people together praying, holding hands, physical touch, demonstrations of human support. All of this makes prayer in that way understandable. I think that explains why many people lean into prayer for comfort, even when they are really relying on science-based solutions. But I remember there was a doctor I had years and years and years ago, David, and I would go in. He was my primary care physician. I'd get a cold or the flu or strep, and I would go in and he would examine me and I would get my medication. But after the visit, he would insist on praying for me.
Wow.
I'm getting a prescription medication developed by scientists, and then he prays that God will help the medicine to work. And even when I was a believer, I thought, this makes no sense. The medicine's going to do what it does the same way, whether we prayed over it or not. Did we magically enchant the medicine? So I totally understand your frustration. In that way, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
In a lot of ways, it's a lot like opioid medications, like Oxycontin, things like that. Because it'll temporarily dull the pain, but people become addicted to it. And some people take it to such an extent that it ruins their lives or they even die from it. So I rather like the analogy you were using about comparing it to the painkiller, because in a lot of ways, that's exactly what it is.
It's also a cheat, though, because some people rely on prayer and ignore science-based solutions. There are those who name and claim their good health because God has promised that they will be healthy, wealthy, and wise. They say, I don't need a doctor. Jesus is my physician. And then those people go off and die. So, there's so many problems. There's such a minefield with the prayer issue. But I think we can approach people who are leaning into prayer in moments of desperation. We have to do that with compassion as fellow human beings. And then after that, the harder discussions can come. But I feel you, David, and I'm so glad that you are part of science-based solutions out there. You keep doing what you do, okay?
Thank you. You keep doing what you do too, Seth. I got to tell you, it is so refreshing being able to listen in on your programs. And, it's like a light of reason in a sea of insanity. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done.
Thanks so much, Dave. All right, be safe. A light of reason in the sea of insanity? That's a T-shirt. Make that into a T-shirt. Like that. There was a study that was done about the power of prayer. Can prayer's effectiveness be scientifically measured? A study was done. I forget how many years ago. I want to say it was 15, 20 years ago. They took people who were going in for heart surgery, and they had three groups. There was a group, they were getting the surgery, and they were prayed for, and they were told. There's a group that's praying for your healing or quick recovery. There was another group, they were not prayed for. They were informed as such. And then I think the third group wasn't told either way. And they measured the recuperation time and the complication rate of all of these groups. And did you know that those who were prayed for and knew about it actually had more complications in their recovery? They got worse in some cases, or they recovered more slowly. Now, why is that? I don't know. Did they feel pressure knowing that there was a group that was praying for them? I've got to get better. So now their body is stressed. Their mind is racing. Maybe they're just not dealing. They're not in the moment, trying to rest themselves as the body recovers. Was there another thing going on? But at the very least, it was revealed that being prayed for after your surgery does not produce faster results, greater healing, and a better recovery. Sometimes prayer makes things worse. And I find that extremely interesting. I will leave more of these discussions about science and medicine versus superstition, about Christian nations, the founding fathers, and whether or not one should DoorDash desserts. I will leave all of this to you with a final request to go and subscribe to my second show, True Stories with Seth Andrews. Be safe and well, and we will do this again quite soon.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.